Routine reconnaissance gone wrong. Commander Vaslik adjusted his breathing apparatus and glanced around the bridge of the scout vessel, Prudent Observer. The ship hummed with the familiar vibrations of its quantum engines, a gentle reminder of the Federation's technological superiority over most other species in the galaxy. As a veteran of 17 first contact missions, Vaslik considered this assignment beneath him. Earth, after all, was classified as a Level 3 civilization, barely worth the Federation's notice. "Status report," he demanded, his voice resonating through the membrane that served as both his vocal cord and translator. Science Officer Nipa's 6 appendages danced across the holographic interface. "Planet Earth appears as reported in our archives, Commander. Nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, primarily water-covered, with primitive satellite technology and rudimentary nuclear capabilities. No detection of antimatter weaponry, dimensional phasing, or consciousness projection." Primitive indeed, smirked Navigation Officer Trell, whose species had evolved beyond physical weaponry 10,000 years ago. Their most advanced warships still use combustion propulsion. Pathetic. Vaslik nodded. This would be the simplest mission of his career. Observe, collect data, perhaps abduct a few specimens for the Xenobiology Division, and return to receive yet another commendation. The Federation Council had insisted on this reconnaissance despite Earth being deemed irrelevant in previous surveys. Something about unusual energy readings that couldn't be explained by their level of technological development. "Commence approach pattern Delta. Activate full stealth protocols," Vaslik ordered, settling back into his command chair. The cellular material conformed to his rigid exoskeleton, offering the perfect balance of support and comfort. "And prepare the specimen collection chambers. Let's not waste time." The Prudent Observer descended through Earth's atmosphere with the grace of a predator confident in its superiority. Their cloaking technology rendered them invisible to Earth's primitive radar systems, and their energy-dampening shields masked any heat signature. They were, for all intents and purposes, ghosts. "Sir, I'm detecting unusual emissions from the planetary surface," Nipa reported, her voice tinged with curiosity rather than concern. "Multiple sources, concentrated around their military installations." "Expected," Vaslik dismissed. "Their nuclear arsenals leak radiation. Nothing to worry about." "This isn't radiation, sir. I'm not sure what it is." Nipa's appendages moved frantically now. "The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database." Vaslik frowned. This was unexpected, but hardly concerning. "Record everything. The research division will want to study these anomalies." The ship continued its descent, now hovering over what their intelligence identified as a military research facility in a region called Nevada. According to their information, this was where Earth's most advanced weapons were developed and tested. "Perfect location for specimen collection," Vaslik announced. "Prepare to deploy collection drones. I want at least 3 human subjects and samples of their technology." "Commander," Trell's voice had risen an octave, a sign of distress in his species. "Something's wrong. Our systems are experiencing interference." "Impossible," Vaslik snapped. "Their technology is too primitive to affect our—" The ship shuddered violently, cutting off his protest. Warning signals flashed across every display, bathing the bridge in an ominous red glow. "We're being scanned," Nipa reported, disbelief evident in her voice. "Multiple frequencies, including several that should be impossible for their level of technology." Before Vaslik could respond, the communication system activated without command. A human voice, translated through their systems, filled the bridge. "Unidentified craft, you have entered restricted airspace. Identify yourself immediately or face defensive measures." The crew exchanged glances of shock. Their stealth technology had never failed before, not even against civilizations far more advanced than Earth. "Ignore them," Vaslik ordered, his pride overriding his caution. "Continue with the mission. They're bluffing. They can't see us, let alone harm us." That assumption proved catastrophically wrong. The first strike came without warning. Not a missile or laser as expected, but something far more insidious. Every electronic system on the ship began malfunctioning simultaneously. Displays flickered, life support stuttered, and the quantum engines whined in protest. "What's happening?" Vaslik demanded, rising from his chair as panic began to set in. "They're hacking us," Nipa whispered in horror. "But how? Their computational technology is rudimentary at best. Irrelevant. Counter it," Vaslik ordered, but Trell was already shaking his head. "I can't, sir. Whatever they're using, it's not in our defense protocols. It's like they're thinking sideways." The ship lurched suddenly, dropping several hundred meters before the backup systems engage. Outside, through the viewing portal, Vaslik could now see fighter aircraft approaching. Primitive machines by Federation standards, but suddenly menacing in a way he couldn't articulate. "Retreat," he ordered, his pride finally giving way to fear. "Full power to engines. Get us out of this atmosphere." The engines roared in response, but the ship barely moved. Something was holding them in place. Not a tractor beam or gravitational anchor, but thousands of tiny connections, like digital fingers gripping every system. "They're in our network," Nipa reported, her voice trembling. "They're learning our technology as we speak." The implications were staggering. Earth wasn't just defending itself. It was assimilating their technology in real time, turning the Federation's own advantages against them. "Impossible," Vaslik whispered, but the evidence was undeniable. The communication system crackled again. "Attention, alien vessel. Your systems have been compromised. Surrender and prepare for boarding." Surrender? To primitives? The very thought was an insult to everything Vaslik believed about the Federation's superiority. "Activate emergency protocols," he ordered. "Purge all systems and initiate self-destruction sequence." "Self-destruction non-responsive," Trell reported, genuine fear now evident. "They've locked us out of our own ship." The fighter jets had surrounded them now, escorting the disabled scout ship toward a massive facility below. Vaslik could see humans in protective gear assembling on what appeared to be a landing platform, ready to board his vessel and capture his crew. One last option, Vaslik decided, reaching for the emergency beacon. Every Federation ship carried a quantum-entangled communicator for worst-case scenarios. Instantaneous communication across any distance, impossible to intercept or block. "I'll alert the Federation. They'll send a battle fleet to rescue us and punish these primitives for their insolence." But when he activated the beacon, the message that transmitted wasn't his desperate call for help. Instead, the humans had somehow reprogrammed it to transmit all of the ship's data, complete schematics of Federation technology, star charts, defense codes, everything. "What have you done?" Nipa whispered in horror. Vaslik had no answer. In his arrogance, he had delivered the keys to the Federation's technological kingdom directly into the hands of a species they had gravely underestimated. As the ship settled onto the landing platform and armed humans approached, Vaslik made a decision. He couldn't allow himself to be captured, to be studied like some specimen. He couldn't face the shame of having failed so completely. Activating his personal field disruptor, a device meant for emergency evacuation, he prepared to end his existence. But Officer Trell stopped him, gripping his arm with surprising strength. "Someone must return," he said urgently. "Someone must warn the Federation about what we found here." "And what exactly have we found?" Vaslik asked, his voice hollow. Trell's expression was grim. "A species that doesn't think like us. A species that turns an enemy's strength into a weakness. A species more dangerous than any we've encountered before." As the airlock opened and humans in hazmat suits entered the ship, Vaslik made his choice. He would escape somehow. He would return to the Federation, and he would warn them about the true nature of Earth. What none of them realized was that the humans had anticipated this reaction. What none of them knew was that Earth had been waiting for first contact for decades, preparing in ways the Federation couldn't begin to understand. And what Vaslik would soon discover was that one survivor returning with a warning was exactly what Earth had planned all along. The survivor's return. The debriefing chamber of the Galactic Federation headquarters loomed around Commander Vaslik, its curved walls designed to intimidate with their sheer scale. 7 high counselors stared down at him from their elevated podiums, their expressions ranging from disbelief to thinly veiled contempt. He was the only survivor of the prudent observer's crew, having escaped Earth through means he still didn't fully understand. "Let us be absolutely clear, Commander," spoke High Counselor Jen, her crystalline form shimmering with barely contained anger. "You claim that your ship, equipped with our most advanced stealth technology, was not only detected but disabled by a Level 3 civilization." Vaslik's exoskeleton felt too tight, constricting around his vital organs. "Yes, Counselor. The humans. They don't think like us. They don't develop technology like us. Everything we know about technological progression suggested they shouldn't have been able to counter our systems. Yet they did," remarked Counselor Drav, whose species communicated through pulses of bioluminescence. "How?" Vaslik hesitated. How could he explain what he still didn't understand? "They adapted. Instead of developing technologies in the linear fashion we expect, they think asymmetrically. They identified vulnerabilities in systems they shouldn't even be able to comprehend." The central display activated, showing footage recovered from Vaslik's emergency recorder. The humans boarding the prudent observer moved with surprising discipline, not the chaotic frenzy expected of primitives encountering advanced technology. They seemed to know exactly what they were looking for. "This isn't their first encounter with extraterrestrial technology," Vaslik continued. "I'm certain of it. They were prepared for us. They've been preparing for decades." "Impossible," scoffed Counselor Elar, whose species had evolved beyond physical form into pure energy. "Our surveys would have detected any previous landings. Not if those landings were conducted by species outside the Federation," Vaslik countered. "We're not the only spacefaring civilization in this galaxy, merely the most organized." A murmur rippled through the chamber. The implication was troubling. Had Earth been exposed to technologies from multiple sources, creating a patchwork understanding of cosmic principles that defied conventional development patterns? Even more concerning, Vaslik continued, emboldened by their reaction, is what happened after my escape. The emergency transponder in my evacuation pod detected massive information transfers from Earth to various points in their global network. They're disseminating our technology, counselors. They're learning from it, adapting it. Then we must act swiftly, declared Counselor Jen. A preemptive strike to eliminate this threat before it matures. Vaslik had anticipated this reaction. It was the Federation's standard response to any potential threat. Overwhelming force applied with surgical precision. But something in his experience on Earth told him this would be disastrous. "With respect, Counselor, I believe that would be a catastrophic error," he said. The chamber fell silent. Challenging the High Council was unprecedented. "Explain yourself, Commander," Jen demanded. The humans anticipated our arrival. They were prepared for technology they'd never seen before. "What does that tell you about their psychology?" Vaslik asked. "They're paranoid, adaptable, and ingenious. If we attack, we won't face a disorganized primitive species. We'll face a unified planet that has already proven it can turn our technology against us." He gestured to the display, which now showed Earth's internet communications network, a chaotic, redundant system that defied the elegant efficiency the Federation prized. "Look at how they communicate. Decentralized, redundant, seemingly inefficient, but nearly impossible to disable completely. Their military doctrine is the same. They don't build toward perfect solutions. They build thousands of imperfect solutions that collectively create something resilient." The Council exchanged troubled glances. This wasn't how advanced civilizations were supposed to develop. There was order to technological progression, predictable patterns that the Federation had observed across hundreds of species. "What do you propose instead, Commander?" asked Counselor Draff. Diplomacy, Vaslik answered, but not as equals, at least not initially. They know we're watching now. They'll be expecting either an attack or an attempt at subterfuge. Instead, let's approach openly, acknowledging what happened and expressing admiration for their ingenuity. Admiration. Jen practically spat the word. For primitives. For a species that forced the most advanced ship in our fleet to retreat, Vaslik corrected. Their pride will respond to the acknowledgement. And while we engage diplomatically, we learn how they think, how they adapt so quickly, how they develop this sideways approach to technology. You believe they have something to teach us? Ilar asked, their energy form pulsing with surprise. I believe they represent something we haven't encountered before, Vaslik said carefully. Not greater technology, but a fundamentally different approach to problem solving. And yes, Counselor, I believe there may be value in understanding it. After hours of debate, the Council agreed to Vaslik's proposal, though reluctantly. A diplomatic mission would be assembled, with Vaslik as advisor, a role that felt more like punishment than recognition. 3 standard cycles later, the Federation's diplomatic vessel, Peaceful Discourse, entered Earth's solar system, broadcasting its presence and intentions on all frequencies. The responses from Earth were immediate, numerous, and disconcertingly sophisticated. They're using communication protocols adapted from our systems, reported the communications officer, but with modifications that I'm not sure how to describe it. They're more efficient somehow. Vaslik wasn't surprised. They'd been studying our technology since the incident, learning from it, improving it. As they approached Earth orbit, Vaslik insisted on reviewing the sensor readings personally. Something had been bothering him since his escape, a nagging suspicion that he was missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. Show me a comparative analysis of Earth now versus our previous surveys, he instructed. The results confirmed his worst fears. Earth's technological signature had changed dramatically in the short time since his escape, not just in the areas one would expect from studying Federation technology, but across multiple disciplines, as if they had suddenly accelerated decades of development into mere cycles. This doesn't make sense, the science officer muttered. Even with access to our technology, they shouldn't be able to implement changes this quickly. But Vaslik was beginning to understand. Unless they already had the theoretical knowledge and just needed practical confirmation, he said quietly. Unless they'd been developing their theories for generations, waiting for proof. As the diplomatic vessel established orbit, Earth's representatives requested a meeting. Not on their planet as expected, but on their moon. A neutral location, they called it. The Federation delegation agreed, seeing it as a promising sign of the humans' diplomatic sophistication. The lunar facility surprised everyone except Vaslik. Far from the primitive outpost expected, it was a state-of-the-art complex with artificial gravity, atmosphere generation, and defensive capabilities that the delegation's scanners couldn't fully penetrate. Welcome to Tranquility Base, greeted the human representative, a silver-haired woman who introduced herself as Dr. Eleanor Chen, Earth's ambassador for extraterrestrial relations. We've been looking forward to a proper introduction for some time. Some time? Vaslik questioned. Our previous surveys indicated your species was unaware of extraterrestrial intelligence. Dr. Chen smiled. An expression Vaslik had learned meant either amusement or predatory anticipation. Commander Vaslik, we've been aware of the broader galactic community for over 70 years. We've simply chosen not to announce ourselves until we were adequately prepared. The revelation stunned the delegation. The implications were enormous. How? Demanded the Federation's lead diplomat. How could you possibly know? We had visitors before you, Dr. Chen explained. Not as organized or as advanced as your Federation, but enough to alert us to the realities of interstellar politics. We studied their crashed ships, their technologies, their biology. We prepared. Prepared for what exactly? Vaslik asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Dr. Chen's smile faded. For the pattern we've observed throughout human history, Discovery, followed by colonization, followed by subjugation. We decided to break that pattern. She gestured around the lunar facility. Everything you see here, our defenses, our countermeasures, our ability to adapt your technology, it's all been in development for decades. We didn't know who would arrive first, so we prepared for all possibilities, including the possibility of stealing our technology and using it against us, the lead diplomat accused, including the possibility of defending ourselves against a technologically superior force with unknown intentions, Dr. Chen corrected. Your Commander Vazlik's ship entered our atmosphere under stealth, with active scanning technology and specimen collection chambers prepared. Were those the actions of a peaceful envoy? Vazlik couldn't refute the accusation. But now that you're here openly, Dr. Chen continued, her tone softening slightly, we can perhaps move beyond initial missteps. Earth doesn't seek conflict with the Federation. We seek recognition. Recognition, the diplomat repeated. As a sovereign world with the right to determine its own path of development, she explained, we don't wish to join your Federation. Not yet, at least. We simply wish to be left to develop in our own way, without interference or exploitation. The diplomatic discussions continued for days, with the Federation representatives gradually coming to understand the unique position Earth occupied. Not primitive, as originally classified, but deliberately concealing their true capabilities. Not openly hostile, but prepared for hostility from others. On the final day of negotiations, as the delegation prepared to return to Federation space with a proposed non-interference treaty, Vazlik requested a private meeting with Dr. Chen. There's something I still don't understand, he admitted when they were alone. You let me escape. Why? Dr. Chen's expression remained neutral. What makes you think that? Because nothing about my escape makes sense in retrospect, Vazlik explained. The security was too lax, the evacuation pod too easy to access. You wanted me to return to the Federation. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. Yes. We needed a messenger, someone the Federation would believe, someone who could convey not just information about Earth's capabilities, but the emotional impact of discovering you'd underestimated us. You manipulated me, Vazlik realized. You manipulated the entire Federation through me. We prefer to think of it as diplomatic efficiency, Dr. Chen replied with that same enigmatic smile. Would your Federation have taken us seriously otherwise? Would they have sent diplomats instead of warships if they hadn't seen the fear in your eyes when you reported back? Vazlik couldn't answer. She was right. And they both knew it. One last question, he said. All this preparation, all this caution, what are you really afraid of out there? Dr. Chen's smile faded completely, replaced by an expression Vazlik couldn't interpret. Not what, Commander? Who? There are older things in this galaxy than your Federation. Things that don't negotiate, don't compromise, don't coexist. We've seen evidence of them in the wreckage that's reached our world over centuries. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to near whisper. Your Federation isn't the threat we've been preparing for, Commander Vazlik. You're just the warm-up exercise. As Vazlik rejoined the delegation and departed Earth, he couldn't shake her words, or the implications they carried. The Federation had classified Earth as primitive, harmless, barely worth noticing. They had been catastrophically wrong. And if they were wrong about Earth, what else might they be wrong about in this vast, ancient galaxy? The question would keep Vazlik awake through many long nights as he stared out at the stars, wondering which of those distant points of light might hold the answer to humanity's true concerns, and whether the Federation would be ready when they finally discovered it.